Jane, we're good to go? Welcome, everybody. We haven't met for a while. I hope we're not too out of practice here this evening. May we have the roll call, please?
Chairperson Philip Goldstein,
Here.
Vice Chairperson Marty Jost,
Here.
Commissioner Tom Wood,
Here.
Commissioner Wendy Newland, Commissioner Renzo Bianchi,
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Janelle Mines,
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Mara Johnson.
Thank you. Commissioners, staff, any amendments to the agenda? Hearing then, item 3, determination of alternate voting. According to my records, Janelle voted last time, so Mara, you will vote this evening, and I must remind you, with great authority comes great responsibility. Okay. General public comment. This is an opportunity for anybody that wishes to speak on anything that is not on the agenda. The 3 business items that we do have this evening, actually 4 business items, all have opportunity for public hearing, but if anybody wishes to speak on anything not on those business items, Grace, anybody signed up? Anybody otherwise wish to speak? Okay, very good. So we will close the general public comment. Commissioners, the consent agenda consists solely of the approval of the May 5th, 2026 meeting minutes. Any additions or corrections to the minutes?
I have a question about the voting. So since there's a full panel, do you need an alternate voter?
Say that again.
So on the voting tonight, so since you have a full panel, do you need any
No,
alternates?
yeah, you're right. Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you. I jumped the gun. I appreciate somebody. I told you I was out of practice.
Okay.
Since we haven't met, I'm glad one of my colleagues caught it before somebody else did. So thank you. No, so there goes your opportunity, but I'm sure it'll come around again here. Yeah, it was pretty cool, wasn't it? Okay, updates section. Staff, appreciate you. Okay, the consent agenda, we do need to vote on this. Do we have any additions or corrections to the minutes? No. Okay, hearing none. Do I have a motion on the consent agenda, which consists solely of the May 5th, 2026 meeting minutes?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the consent agenda carries on a 5-0 vote. The update section, I don't have anything tonight. It's been such a long time since last time, but staff appreciate you keeping that in there. And we'll continue to utilize that as we go forward. Item 7, no general business items, non-public hearings. So we move on to item 8, which all have public hearings. And the first one up is the recommendation to council on the first replat of Ladera South subdivision, and that is Troy Jones.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. This first project is the first replat of the Ladera South final plat subdivision. Just to give you a little refresher, you've seen this before earlier this year, I believe, and it was basically the Ladera South final plat is the area that's kind of shown in the aqua color. Hector being on the bottom, I-25 on the left, and County Road 5 on the right, and I think we're all fairly familiar with the area. The replat of a final plat is processed just like a final plat, in that it's the notice, the hearings are all the same. We're basically redoing the final plat hearing for just a few specific changes that have been proposed to be done on what was previously approved. Just to go over the background, all 4 projects actually are shown in this are in the Ladera subdivision. So I only have this map once, but we've got the regional commercial zone district with a PD overlay. So the entire Ladera South that we're talking about right now, and then the future ones are up in the Ladera second filing, all of which are in that same zone district, all of which are designated the same on the comp plan, being this purple color, employment, regional, and commercial. So if we need to come back to these maps later, we can, but I only am showing those once tonight. And just as a reminder, so the criteria for a final plat really goes back to, are you consistent with the sketch plan and with the preliminary plat as still, and we find that they are. Just as a refresher, we can come back to the sketch plan if it becomes important in the conversation, but oh, you got it on your monitors? Okay. There it goes. All of a sudden, I was looking and talking at the thing, and it went black. Okay, but in any case, we can come back to that if we need, but this is in the south east corner of what is the Ladera South final plat, and they had lots 4 through 9 on the left as what was approved earlier this year, and they want to reconfigure these lots to be just 2 lots, lot 4 and 5 instead, and so this replat really is just to do that. At the time that they came up with the configurations of lots 4 through 7, they didn't have a user that was locked in on purchasing any of the lots, but they do now have a user for lot 4 that wants the whole thing, and so that's really the crux of the reason why they want to replat, just to combine those so that there's now two lots, and instead of the 5 that was there. So that really that's all. I think the crux of my presentation. In your packet there is the actual document of the final plat. That's a 4-page surveyor's document. If you'd like to take a look at that, it is in the packet. But other than that, that's a staff presentation, and I do know that the applicants are here. If you have any questions or if they want to present, yeah.
Evening.
Good evening. Kirsten Starman, representing Connell LLC and the Ladera team. Happy to answer any questions you have. Troy really captured it. We're just taking these lots and making them into 2 lots.
Anxious to hear anything that my colleagues have to say, but this is a pretty simple matter. You did not anticipate you were going to be needing as big a lot. You now have a business or businesses for which you need that, hence the replatting.
Correct.
You're under no obligation to disclose who those businesses are, by the way.
That's good.
They are? See, that was a test. I wanted to make sure everybody read the packet. But so, commissioners, Kirsten, unless you have anything else, commissioners, questions? Oh, we do have to open it for public. See, that's what happens when we don't have the attorney here to remind. I told you I'm out of practice, and I'll probably play that card 1 or 2 more times tonight. We do have to open it up for public comment. Grace, has anybody signed up for public comment for this or otherwise wishes to offer public comment on this? No, then we'll close public comment, and thank you. Okay, so commissioners, questions for the Ladera team? Renzo? The staff then.
Oh, sure. The only thing, and you got into it in the presentation, but in our packet, it wasn't clear that this and the rest of our items that we're reviewing tonight are actually hinged off of this. I just think that's an important point that you point out when you bring it to council at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Thank you. Other, Wendy?
Troy, remind me, it's on page 8 of 55. What is ROW? What does that stand for?
Oh, right of way.
Right of way. Thank
Sorry,
you.
I should have spelled that.
Nope, that's okay. I'm sure you've said it before.
I'm assuming, let's see, what page, I just can double check, but that's what ROW normally means.
Section 5.7.8 landscape design standards.
What page?
8 of 50.
8,
8, oh, 8.
item 2, halfway down.
Yes, right of way. So that, yeah, and that's just a quote out of the code, but I guess the code used that abbreviation as well.
Thank you.
Other,
Meaning for that.
Nell?
So I did want to clarify where this was. So Renzo mentioned that it has to do with the rest of our presentations tonight, but I think this is a different location, right? So this is the southeast corner of Hector Road and County Road 5, is that right?
Yeah, so this diagram I just put up might help you visualize, but Whitesell Street's already in, so it's really the area along County Road 5, south of the Whitesell Street intersection and north of Hector Road.
And the other presentations tonight will deal with a different area, is that?
Right,
Okay.
they're gonna be up in the non-colored area of Ladera, so basically, let's see if I have a pointer. Well, basically, just north of the, of where the dividing line between the aqua color and the non-aqua colored. So you can see a little square that's got four little blocks on it. So two of the three that we're gonna hear on conditional use are the 2 blocks that front Whitesell out of those 4. And the other one is directly across the street, just south of Floor and Decor, right on the corner there. And just so you can visualize them all together, yeah.
Okay, so this replat is dealing with the southeast corner of Hector, not southeast, the corner of Hector Road and County Road 5, just to the west of County Road 5.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for pointing that out. I thought it was the same one.
Tom? You good? Anybody? Okay, Kirsten, Will, anything else you want to add? Staff? Okay, Commissioners, with that, do I have a motion on business item 8A, recommendation to council on the first replat of the Ladera South subdivision?
Motion to approve item 8A, recommendation to council on first replat of Ladera South subdivision.
Second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. On a 5-0 vote. Item 8B.
Before we get into the next three, just wanted to clarify something so we're all have the right context going into this. Is these next three items are approving conditional use. You know,
Well, you're recommending to council
yeah.
on whether or not to
So-
approve it, yeah.
So I just wanted to be clear that it's not a site plan approval.
Right.
There's concept site
Exactly.
plans in the packet, and I thought maybe people may get confused. It's not a site plan approval, it's just conditional use.
Yeah, in fact, I want to talk about that process. Before I dive into any of the three projects, I want to talk a little bit about and go over like the site plan, or excuse me, the conditional use approval process.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, because it's a unique thing here.
I thought
First
that's where
couple
we were going
slides
to
really
go.
sort of
Yeah, let me introduce it, and then I did alert, Troy was going to do this anyway, explain this. So this item 8B is the resolution approving the conditional use permit for Christian Brothers Automotive. So Troy, if you would please clarify Marty's point now for our new and newest commissioners and our oldest commissioners, could you explain the circumstances of the
Yeah.
conditional use, but no site plan coincidental with that?
Yes. So conditional use review has really 3 different parts of the land use code that we really need to look at closely. The first is where the process is kind of spelled out in 2.8.8. The second area is the land use table, where it designates whether things are conditional use, are permitted with conditions, or just permitted. Then the section 4.4 is when there is a conditional use or use with conditions, then it lists what those additional review criteria and conditions would be. So I want to just sort of go through. So this is also one of these processes that's spelled out in this table 2.1. And so we did do the posting and the mailing and the published in the newspaper for all three of them. This is a recommendation to council. And this is a standalone request that is not yet tied to a site plan application, like we were saying. So these diagrams that are not approved, they still have to go through development review, but they are the concepts of the site and the landscape and the elevations that they're proposing to date. And once they get any additional feedback, either through this process or through the development review process, those will probably be refined somewhat. But at least we needed to sort of show you what they're thinking, because when we go through some of the conditions and the review criteria, some of them have to deal with the layout and some of them have to do with the building design. And so we just really need to be able to see what they're thinking, even though they are just conceptual at this point. Okay, so just to go through, and we can come back to this anytime we need to as we're reviewing them, and they're also item by item. In your staff report, I've got kind of the staff response to each of these various criteria. But the conditional review process has the review criteria that is just the overall considerations for any of these conditional use applications. And so it's, the first one is really, is kind of a standard, does it comply with the zoning district, and does it need a separate variance approval? Item B, though, is kind of the meat of kind of the discretion that the council ultimately will have to interpret what they're proposing having any adverse effects, and or is it injurious to any of the neighboring properties, more so than like any other use that would be allowed without a condition in this zone district. And so I've gone through all three of them in my staff report, explaining how I think they are satisfying that, so long as we apply certain conditions, or a condition for the item B. Item C, are there adequate utilities? Item D, let's see, will it impair the appropriate use of adjacent properties? And then finally is item E, and there's a condition on all three of them on item E as well, that there's no significant traffic issues being created. And we have a condition just to ensure that when we get to site plan, based on what Vince would like to see on their applications as far as the information goes. The second one of those code sections that I said that conditional use applications need to consider is this use table tells us whether or not we have to have a conditional use decision being made, right? So if you look at, and I've just cut out the two different uses that we're talking about on the three projects later after just this overall presentation, but car wash is one of the uses, and you look through the table, and in the RC zone, it's got the C, which means that it is subject to this conditional use review, right? And the other two are both a motor vehicle repair, actually minor. I flipped the wrong one, but motor vehicle repair minor looks just like this on the chart, and it has a C on there as well. Apologize for that. But, so then once you've determined that it is a conditional use, they have this section 4.4 where it goes through each one of the uses that are listed as conditional uses or uses permitted with conditions. Those are two separate things. And this highlighted line, it really is kind of what it comes down to, is that the town council may use the criteria in 4.4 for that use in granting conditional use requests. So car washes has their own, and we'll get to that. And but there's really it's only a few things, some of which don't apply, like the last one. We're not in the Harmony corridor, so that doesn't apply. But it has to do with parking, stacking, and the stacking of cars waiting to get in the car wash. Has to do with the parking and the dry down areas, and so that's why we had to really have a conceptual site plan, for, because so many of those you'd never know unless you saw a drawing of what they're proposing. So we'll get to that with the specific request. When we get to motor vehicle repair, this has sort of been lumped into other uses, so both major and minor motor vehicle repair, as well as vehicle rental sales and RV sales, are all kind of lumped together in this same batch of conditions, some of which really don't apply. None of them are proposing any outdoor storage associated with their businesses. It's all, and then there's none of them are proposing any speakers or display for sale of any vehicles. So it's really comes down to the location, and none of them are within 200 feet, and there's no sales. So there's not a whole lot on this particular list for these uses to abide by. It's really kind of when we're going to go back to the overall conditional use criteria for most of the what at least staff's analysis was. And again, this is a little better view of the three lots we're talking about, zoomed in a little bit within Ladera, and that building that's on the right is the brand new respite care building. And, to kind of orient you, and then the Floor and Decor is the box just north of the Westerly Express Car Wash site. Okay, so that's kind of my overview on that process. Would you like me to jump into the first one?
Yeah, just one more thing. It appears to me, by way of education, re-education, much of conditional use involves fairly objective standards. It only becomes subjective when you get to looking at adverse effects, and that's pretty much the one that you have to look at. But most of it is, safe to say, fairly objective, as you so well went through.
It either is within 200 feet or it isn't within 200 feet of residential, right? So.
Okay. So go, if everybody's okay with the generalities, let's get into the specifics, please.
So the first one is Christian Brothers Automotive. They are going to be at the southeast corner of Whitesville and Luna Vista Drive. So Luna Vista Drive is the street that's on the south end of Floor and Decor. Just to kind of give you a little context. So they're proposing this 10-bay automotive repair facility. So this is their site plan, and this is their landscape plan. And then they've got their building elevations. And so when we go through the criteria in the staff report, let's see, I think this is probably the easiest way for me to do. Like you said, Phil, really the object or the subjective items are really this, going back to the the review criteria on, the proposed conditional use shall conform to the character of the area with the same zoning district that it's located in. The use shall have no more adverse effects on health, safety, and welfare of the surrounding properties, or shall have no more injurious property or improvements in the area than would any other use generally permitted in the same district, right? So we're comparing this to things that would be allowed, such as like a retail or a mixed-use building, or the respite care was allowed without conditions. There's a daycare that is being proposed on the lot directly east of here. It's not a conditional use. They don't need to go through the conditional use. So we're comparing, like, is this injurious to something that can go in without having to have conditional use? So is this conditional use having an impact that needs to be mitigated in order for it to be appropriate? So as we did that, this particular section of code says, well, we need to look at the height of the buildings and the type and and the location of the buildings to help us analyze that, but then also the type and the extent of the landscaping and the screening of the site, and then whether it's whether it's consistent with the comprehensive plan and encouraging any kind of density or mixed uses. So really, we honed in on the landscape and screening. I think the building heights are really consistent with what you'd see on any of the other uses allowed that aren't conditional. It's really just trying to say, okay, you've got a view of all these garage doors that's facing straight east, and the property straight east of here, needs probably some beefing up of the landscape screening so that they're not just looking right into those garage doors. At least that's, staff's interpretation of, applying this section of the analysis, which is, like you said, Phil, the subjective part of these criteria. And so just kind of going back to the landscape plan. So really, we've got a condition we're suggesting that you recommend to council and that they ultimately approve along the eastern edge. So north being up, the eastern edge being on the right. They're showing a row of trees. There's basically a private drive that's separating this site from the future daycare site, and so we're wanting some additional landscaping that can be implemented at site plan. We really didn't ask them to draw it in that way because I think the condition is really something that just has to be, if the conditions imposed, would just have to be something that is a condition of the site plan review. So when we get to the recommended motion, that first one really is what hones in on this issue of screening, and we're saying that the proposed condition would be that on the landscape plan for the upcoming development site plan application, the applicant shall provide landscape screening along the east property edge, including evergreen trees or appropriate plant material to provide year-round visual screening. And that's a little bit more than the code would require if it wasn't a conditional use along that edge. So this is really kind of the mitigating factor for that. And then the second condition goes back to what I was mentioning earlier on the no adverse traffic impacts is one of the other criteria that we talked about. And when we reviewed that, and Vince from the Public Works Department is the development review engineer, and we got to some language that would make him comfortable about that there won't be adverse impacts, which is basically that the applicant shall provide comparison of the AM and the the AM and the PM peak trips and the comparison of the total daily trips, comparing their site and their impacts against the master Ladera traffic impact study report that's currently the latest, greatest version. And we do get a latest, greatest version of that updated a couple times a year usually. I think the most recent version of that is like in May this year. As they get, things develop, they continue to update that with more specific and detailed information. So with that, I'm recommending approval with these two conditions for this conditional use.
Troy, could you also, and I presume the applicant will be offering some thoughts, but
Right.
or
yeah.
not, but could you also touch on, again, education, re-education, the Architectural Review Committee? I'm aware
Yeah.
it's been a work in progress. Who serves on that? How you go about, who's involved in that from
Yeah.
the town, and who's involved in that from Ladera and applicant, and just enlighten us
Yeah,
on
so
that.
the Design Review Committee for Ladera meets, or they have an appointment time once a month, and sometimes they squeeze in additional ones. And Chad and I are both invited to attend. I don't think, we're not technically on their committee, but we are advisors, that it helps kind of the communication process to observe and at least offer suggestions as they're preparing their design to also, not only meet the what Ladera wants them to have, but also what the town wants them to have. So within their development team, I know their landscape architect and urban planner, Steve, is on that committee. I think Grant Nelson is his last name. Grant Nelson is on that. I think Kirsten could explain who else is on that.
Yeah, we also have an architect, Michelle Wilson,
That's right. Yeah.
is on that, and other members of the development team.
And so we just had, our most recent one was yesterday for that block 5, or that lot 5 of the replat that we just talked about for a senior living facility.
Okay.
All 3 of these have had the DRC. There's been a few other sites within Ladera that have had that as well. And I think it's a process that's really useful, at least for us to be invited to kind of keep the communication going, and they get it, more closely aligned with the code on initial submittals, kind of work out a lot of the kinks early on this way. So,
Right. Well, thank you. I just want everybody, I was aware that this had been formed, and I just wanted my colleagues to all hear that. Okay, anything else from you, and do we have a brief presentation by the applicant? Is that mic on? There, now.
There we
it is.
go.
when the red light's
There
on.
it is.
yeah.
Thank you.
A little tall for it. Well, thank you, Troy, for kicking us off there. I don't have too much to add, but I do want to thank you guys for having us out tonight. Christian Brothers is extremely excited and looking forward to becoming a part of the Timnath community. We appreciate your recommendation for approval, and Christian Brothers is willing to accept those conditions that were included in his recommendations. With me tonight, I have LaToya Moten with Christian Brothers Automotive, and we have Jeffrey Oder, who's our project engineer. So between the 3 of us, hopefully we can answer any questions you guys have.
And your name?
Oh, Cameron Mullins.
Oh, good, thank you. Okay, commissioners, thank you. Oh, yeah, I got you. Head you off there. We have to open this public comment. Anybody here wish to offer public comment on this business item? With that, I close public comment. And now, commissioners, questions for the Christian Brothers representative.
I have a question, and it's partially for staff and partially maybe for the developer. Auto repair shops, I think, present a challenging parking situation. It's different than a retail or other kind of a situation. And where we have 10 bays and you have frequent cars coming in, some cars waiting to be serviced, some cars that have been serviced and are waiting for somebody to pick them up, you're going to have 3 or 4 cars maybe per day, per bay. You only have 32 parking spaces. you've got 8 to 10 staff, and you've got potentially 30 or 40 cars coming in and out, some of them waiting, some of them repaired and waiting to be picked up. I frequent the Christian Brothers over in Windsor, and it's a great place, and I really appreciate it. This is definitely a good use for this site, but I think we need to think about the use in terms of parking. Over there, there's not enough parking spaces, and the staff parks across the street in a vacant lot, and it's always crowded. I think we need to, from a staff standpoint, relook at our parking requirements, and I know a lot of this comes up in the next phase, and think about, for example, to the north, you have a whole bunch of landscaping. I think you'd be better served having 3 or 4 more parking spaces to the north. I think that parking is going to be an issue, and I know, again, traffic will be looked at in the next step, but if you're going to have a daycare facility with lots of traffic, you're not going to be able to park on the street, either on Whitesell or on the side streets. So I think that parking for this particular use is a critical component for a conditional use permit. And I think staff should evaluate that. And as a developer, I think you should definitely look at your Windsor site and see how many parking spaces they have. This is laid out almost identical, and there's not enough over at the other place.
Troy, you want to speak to that particular, or any, I know we're getting ahead. This is not site plan, but this is good time to bring it up.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
the land use code speak to the parking?
It does. You know, I hadn't thought to analyze that yet, since we don't have a site plan application. It's a good point, Tom. That could be something if you might, you know, if the commission is inclined to think that that is an important condition, to suggest that to council.
Maybe a recommendation that we would pass on the town council is that, as part of the conditional use permit for the site, that adequate parking is provided for. And if you
And that may be specific to the, you know, this particular use versus, like, you're gonna see one in a minute that is the exact same use that has, but it has different turnover, right?
It's a different
kind
type of a business,
right.
an oil change or a car wash. This, you're gonna have a lot more cars waiting
Yeah.
to be serviced and cars that have been serviced waiting to be picked up. Nobody's gonna walk here, so they've gotta get here from some other place, so it's gonna take some time. I think that we wanna make sure that the use is appropriate and the space is appropriate for that thing. So it's kind of a use-related issue. It's not, falls under our general parking kind of planning.
And that may be something that the Christian Brothers team might be able to, you know, you've got quite a few of these facilities, and have you had this problem, and what have you done to rectify that in other locations?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good evening. Usually when we design the site, we try to design for as many parking spaces as allowed. Sometimes code puts a maximum amount on there. I can't remember with this site, maybe we had like some type of setback or restriction as to why we couldn't put parking there, but we would like to add as much parking as you guys will allow. We definitely.
And perhaps staff can relook at landscaping to the north, where you may not have the visual impact of neighbors. Instead of trees, 4 to 6 more parking spaces might make a whole lot of difference.
Troy, it would seem, Tom's making a good point. At the very least, it would seem, since you've got the Windsor facility, if it's similar number of bays and such to look at, but as you acknowledged, I presume it's early enough in the process, it would behoove us to look at that one in particular.
Now would be the
and
time,
then-
yeah.
Yeah.
Now would be the time, yes.
Yes, and I, not sure how much, if I'll get enough support, but obviously Tom's on board with this, but I would certainly support this going forward to council next week, presumably, that this was a condition of the conditional use permit recommendation to council, that this be looked at prior to getting to the site plan phase, even though, to your credit, you're showing us essentially the site plan. Tom's point is well taken.
Yeah, I think a lesson learned from the Windsor location might be a good example here. Thank you. And I do think it's a great use for this location.
Tom, anything else? Wendy?
It's for Tom and one's for Christian Brothers. So Tom, we look at the landscape screening at the site plan time? Sorry, Troy.
No.
Who's Tom?
They're showing us the concept, so our reaction is based on this criteria about, whether there's an injurious sort of scenario happening with this use next to other uses. We'll hone in on exactly what type of planting, as long as it accomplishes this visual screen we're talking about, we'll get to that level of detail at the site plan where they'll be, generating a landscape plan that's very specific.
Okay. Do we have any requirements on what a landscape screening entails, like X number of trees?
Well, Lindsay on our staff has a lot of background in landscape architecture, and so she helped me write that condition to sort of encapsulate what, there's a lot of things you could do, and let me go back to the condition, but whoops, pressed the wrong button. Press the square button. Oh, there it goes. All right. So the condition that Lindsay came up with, the applicant shall provide landscape screening along the eastern property edge, including evergreen trees or appropriate plant material to provide year-round visual screening. So there's a lot of ways to accomplish that, different species and so forth. So there's the example of evergreen trees, but there's also other types of, shrubs that could accomplish that as well. So it's really just needs to provide this year-round visual screening between the two uses.
Mm-hmm. But there's nothing real specific
Right.
from our perspective.
There's
the town's
There's
perspective.
leeway, certainly.
At least not, yeah, Lindsay was comfortable with that in giving us enough teeth to say, no, that's not good enough when that comes along, but not be so prescriptive as to how do they provide, or how do they resolve that. It gives them a lot of flexibility on, the landscape architect picking a variety of different things that could accomplish that.
But may we, to Wendy's question, may we presume the phrase year-round, you would not put deciduous trees?
Right. We
most
have
likely
to have
because-
that screening in the
Yes,
middle of
so-
winter. So there's a variety of species of shrubs that have that in the winter, and some the leaves fall off. So you
And then
definitely
staff-
want one that doesn't have the leaves fall off.
And staff approves all.
Yeah,
types of
Lindsay's really familiar with all of those different species and so forth. So
We have a crack at that during the site plan, too.
yeah,
Yep.
Also, to
Perfect.
yeah.
the first part of your question, or the first question, you almost have to, in order for you to get it to us, you almost have to see the site plan in order to make sure we're addressing those injurious,
Yeah.
adverse.
That's why we're showing you, even though it's not a formal application for the site plan, it's the conceptual site and landscape plan and conceptual elevations, just so that we can really evaluate it, these review criteria effectively.
What other question and comments? Then we'll come back to the excellent point Tom has raised and see how to best deal with that. Anybody else? Wendy, oh, go ahead.
So this is for Christian Brothers. Really appreciated this introduction to your company. I thought that was great. I know that oil changes are only 10% of your total shop revenue. And this, just to satisfy my curiosity, it says on the next page of your introduction that you recycle the oil. Who does that? Does somebody come once a week and get the oil? I'm just curious.
We have a company, environmental company that comes in, and it's a third-party vendor. They come in and they haul off all the.
Is it once a week?
No, I think it's monthly.
Thank you. Satisfies my curiosity how it works.
Other questions?
I've
Renzo.
got a couple. Yeah, just a couple. And again, I thought it was a great packet. It gave a lot of good information. I do have to redeem myself a little bit. One of the pictures in here, it does say Lot 4, Block 2.
Oh,
And that's why I did the equating right away in my head. And I didn't even look at where it was. And I think there's another one that says Lot 5. So
oh,
that's where
okay.
my confusion came in, and it might be somebody else's. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
wrote
trying to.
four staff reports in like 2 days, and they were all blending together
Yeah,
at one point.
That's right. So I have two questions. One is for Christian Brothers. It's definitely automotive. Do they do semi-trucks?
No,
Okay, so we don't have to worry about those large vehicles?
no.
Basically just passenger type of vehicles? Okay, all right. And then, and this applies to probably all three, and I'll just ask it at this time. We have that waterway, don't we, that runs near there or whatever? Did
You
we?
mean the Box Elder ditch?
Yeah. Do we have to do any kind of environmental studies or anything like that since, you know, this is automotive, obviously they take care of solvents and all that kind of stuff. Likewise, you know, with the car wash, it has stuff, and then
Yeah.
the other.
Well, the
the
Box
other,
Elder ditch runs along the diagonal, so you can see the little reservoir there. And there's like a gray line, that's the diagonal next to the property line. That's the Box Elder ditch, and it's in a concrete channel. It's basically vertical walls, and it's got like a grate on the top of it.
I guess that what I was getting at, you see the pond there behind? That's what I was more getting at. I mean, the box elder was one because.
Oh, you mean that
So anything
that
that
little
might get
reservoir there?
into
Yeah.
like the ground and seep down into the water that way. Do we have to do it? And it's just a question.
Nothing in the land use code. I mean, presumably, it's not going to leak into the ground because they'll contain all of their spill. I mean, I would think that's standard practice nowadays, but our land use code really doesn't speak to that I'm aware of.
I can add a couple of things if you don't mind. Yeah, so that's something Christian Brothers takes extremely seriously. Obviously, a hot topic with auto-related uses is the environment. So it's really fleshed out in the operations packet that was included with the submittal. But they have double-walled fluid containment. So if one wall fails, there's another one to help prevent leaks. There's an oil and water separator that's standard on every site. And then the fluid recycling, and the way they clean their shop is with a Zamboni type floor cleaner. So it sucks it up rather than people moving it around everywhere and letting it drain into the grass and other places. So it is above the industry standard. And then, like I said, it's something they do take seriously, and we can definitely continue to discuss with town staff if needed.
Other questions?
So, two questions. One is, having three automotive-centric businesses, right, kind of grouped together, was that planned or just coincidental,
I mean,
or?
I mean, the town didn't say you should do this or anything, but our role as the town is to make sure that the code is being applied when an application comes forward. So, yeah, it seems like a lot of auto users in one spot to me too. But that's not the question, I guess, that staff's role anyway to ask is, I mean, we can't really tell them you can't do that many next to each other. There's nothing in the code that says you
There's
can't.
nothing like gas stations and things like that. But it may be worthwhile, because I would anticipate council would maybe have that question as well, so you may want to think about that a bit.
Where would you, if you were designing this, where would you advocate that they be separated? I thought it was favorable to keep them grouped together personally, but.
But I guess I wasn't asking it with any sort of bias. I was just wondering if this was by design, or it's just, that's the lots that were available and we just happen to have these three businesses.
I know maybe the Will from the Ladera team might be able to tell you. I don't know, that we just receive the applications and we react to them.
So Will Welch, I'm the infrastructure project manager for the Ladera project. These users are all looking for a similar size site, and so that's part of what drove them. Additionally, it's the birds of a feather flock together. They do like to be that way, just like we're kind of aggregating restaurants into a group. Separating them out, I think you would find would be less desirable to a lot of people. And so that's why these are the lots that are sized to accommodate these kinds of uses, and we like that they're in that area and done that way. And then I guess I would like to give one other answer about on the box elder ditch that Renzo asked about. The ditch is the high point, the rim, so all drainage goes away from the ditch. So surface drainage doesn't move from this site towards the ditch at all. It all goes the other way.
Okay, thanks for that. The other thing is just, when I was reading through this, I looked at it and it's like, all three of these uses, to me, provided a good balance on traffic, because my assumption, and I guess you have access to the data, that my assumption is these tend to be on the lower side of traffic versus like a retail site.
Well, that's part of what we were asking that condition,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
second condition for.
It is.
We
It
don't
just-
really know yet, right? Or anything to add, Vince?
We're comfortable with that language moving forward to the site plan phase, so we can take a look at that information a little bit more in depthly.
Yeah,
that
but
time.
I guess what I'm talking about is, yes, we don't have the report yet, but, just on your knowledge of it, these tend to be lower traffic than like high retail.
They generally do, but that's also why we want the report to understand it more specifically for each site.
So we just did that amendment that Troy was talking about, and actually these users were known at the time, and so their traffic was included in the GIS. So we expect it to work out very nicely.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? I've got a couple things. Janelle?
So I have questions about walkability. So if I were having my car serviced and I was going to wait around for 2 hours, there's some really nice places to walk to. One is the open space, and one would be the restaurants. What can be done to make sure that first crossing over Whitesell is safe, crosswalk or something like that, and then walking to the open space, walking over that Box Elder canal, you're walking on a grate. It's not real pleasant to walk across to get over to that open space. So I'm wondering if there's any plans to make that more walkable.
Yeah, in the Ladera South final plat, and I'm not sure that I have a pointer that would, do I? It's kind of behind you. Oh, I guess I could. You can't really see it that far. I can describe what. So pedestrian crossing of Whitesell, really the roundabout is the closest one to these properties, but there will be a stoplight a little further south. So maybe they're kind of in the middle between the two crossings. The Whitesell design and the traffic flows, I talked a lot to Kim about this, about a year ago, when we were first looking at, or at least when I first started here, when we were looking at the overall layout of the sketch plan and where are those pedestrian crossings going to happen. And Kim was pretty adamant that we really only wanted to have them in there's these several locations, and really try to channelize all of the walkways to go there, just because of the sheer volume of traffic that's anticipated on Whitesell. Really the roundabout, and then there'll be a stoplight just south of here, and then if you go further south around the corner of the I could give you the other view. the overall, where did that go? It's back here. Yeah, the overall Ladero, yeah, I think maybe the sketch plan is the best way to show it. So you can see the roundabout, right? And then you can see under PA3 and over PA4, there's kind of a street there that's got some arrows along it. That's where the stoplight's going to be. And then right at that corner of where it says PA7 on kind of the bluish color, right at the corner where there'll be a pedestrian-only crosswalk, and then all the way down at County Road 5. So it's really kind of there's 4 pedestrian crossings, and that was something that was really established at this site plan, or excuse me, the sketch plan approval.
From one of the meetings last year, weren't the pedestrian crossings the lighted ones?
You mean the one at the corner by the PA7, or?
The pedestrian crossings, I don't know if that was this road or the private roads that they're planned to be the push the button and the lighted crossing.
You're correct, at the mid, there's gonna be a mid-block pedestrian crossing that kind of cuts right across the PA7 area.
Mhm.
That is a pedestrian-only lit with refuge areas.
Okay.
Where's the closest pedestrian crossing then to the Christian Brothers and the other 2 automotive related? Where's the closest one there, Will?
It would be the roundabout.
Or all the way up at the roundabout?
Yeah.
So I would, to Janelle's point, which is a good one, and simply by the timing when Kim, and that's in engineering, Vince's shop, certainly looked at this. We didn't necessarily know that we were going to have these 3 automotive, that, to her point, people would come and want to visit. Is there, Will, could you see, and staff, could you see going forward a way to at least additional crosswalk, not necessarily the full lighted, but can you see something that speaks to that concern?
Well, the code and the design speak to how frequent you can have those kinds of things and the speed of the road. And so I really don't believe, based on the discussions that we've had, that we'll get more mid-blocks or any of that, because it's a lot, and you've got cars that are going up and down there. The other thing to remember is the traffic signal will be there. I mean, ultimately, I guess the traffic signal may be a little closer to them, but the traffic signal won't get installed until that thing called warrants are met, which means you've got enough traffic and things that drive it. So, probably for a while, the first bet is going to be going up to the roundabout and making that crossing until the traffic signal warrants get met and that signal's got.
So I'm gonna look to our colleague down there. Janelle brought this up. Does this at least warrant going to council saying we're going to address the parking issue as well? But does it at least warrant that we raise this issue? I certainly don't see this as by any means a deal killer, but it is a good point, and it's certainly a selling point. Through these years with Ladera, one of the reasons we liked Ladera is you had a nice mix, and you had opportunity for people to come and do business and go to the open space or go to the restaurants. So at the very least, I would think it warrants just mentioning it. We may not be able to do anything about it, but at least we're demonstrating the due diligence.
Well, I guess I would add to that, I understand that there's sometimes limitations, there's only so many crossings, things like that, but realistically, I think we have to realize that people are going to cross that Luna Vista whether you want them to or not.
So
I do have one thing to add for this. We also don't want our customers running across the road in front of cars. So one thing Christian Brothers does offer is a shuttle service. So we will shuttle you home or to a restaurant or wherever you want to go.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. That's
In-N-Out Burger.
And there was part of Janelle's question that was still on the table, and I wanted to
Yeah.
finish that, but
Please.
to get across the Box Elder Ditch, there's the road at the south of Respite Care, and at the south of the Take 5 oil site. So that road will extend, or not, there'll be like a parking, it's a small parking area, but it's like a little trailhead parking area at the end of that street. And there'll be a crossing across Box Elder Ditch there, according to the approved landscape design for the open space. And then the other one is at the roundabout, if you go straight east of the roundabout, is at kind of another trailhead, and that'll cross the Box Elder Ditch as well. So those are the two spots. Otherwise, trying to discourage pedestrians between those 2 points from crossing and try to direct them to those two.
The one thing I also would like to add is future crossings and the classification of the road and all those sort of things that we're talking about now are generally thought of and reviewed and analyzed in future build-out as well. In most TIS reports, specifically in this one, it's very detailed. And that safe crossing for all patrons of that are using this road has been taken into account, and that's why those crossings are placed where they are. Will was correct, and there are other factors that contribute to that. But once again, safety for everybody on the road, not just cars, not just pedestrians, bikers as well. Multimodal safety is taken into account in every step of the process. So those crossings that may seem to you to be spread out are about the safest areas that we can cross Whitesville with the amount of traffic that we are expecting in this road from now and into the future.
Well, with that said, the shuttle, I think is, if you offer that service, I think that's very helpful to this issue. I realize also some people will be picked up. They'll be dropping a car off and be picked up. But the fact that you have the shuttle home and you will offer it to any of the other in and out or otherwise, that's positive as well. And I commend you for that. Now, is there anything you would add or have this rise to any further level here?
So I think, the same question would be with the Take 5 oil change as well. That's another couple-hour service that you might walk around. I'm just wondering that if there will be painted crosswalks, going north, because right, so according to the design, you would walk to the roundabout and then you would go down Sweatsville Road to go to the restaurants over there, right? So, it looks like that sidewalk already exists, which is good. I just want to make sure that we are not causing pedestrians to cross where they shouldn't be.
We are going to take a look at that at the site plan phase, and we have taken a look at it through the previous project that Troy was talking about. And we'll continue to look at it in the future. We will definitely keep safety at our forethought.
Great, thank you.
But I think
Talk
the
about it a lot.
question, though, is that you had is, if we're walking on the sidewalk, going north or going south, like across Luna Vista, for example, there's a painted crosswalk there, right? Not across Whitesville, but across those feeder roads. Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry, yes, there are crossing facilities in these areas for sure.
Other questions? I have just a couple comments. This is an attractive building. I realize we're not at the site plan, but already we could see, assuming it comes forward, it's in keeping with. I was reminded of the storage facility. I could see some design elements, so I commend you on that as well. The traffic thing, yeah, I personally, to your point, I mean, I think it's better that these are grouped together. particularly as it relates to if they're elsewhere, what might be adjoining them. That might limit that. So I don't have a problem with that. Traffic-wise, and I'm sure this will come forward, but you would expect far less traffic even with the aggregate of these three than you might with a retail business, perhaps a grocery store or a retail store of some kind. So I think in those regards, those are positives. So, Commissioners, anything else to add regarding the Christian Brothers proposal? Hearing none, do I have a motion then on business public hearing item 8B, resolution approving the conditional use permit for Christian Brothers Automotive?
Yeah, I'd like to move that we recommend approval of the conditional use permit for Christian Brothers Automotive with the additional comment that adequate parking is considered for the use planned.
So as far as wording, would we say, on the condition that staff works with the applicant to ensure adequate parking in the site plan?
Yes, I'd be okay with that.
And I think, although I don't know that this has to be captured in the motion, I think at a minimum, to your excellent point about Windsor's, strongly encourage you, part of that, to take a good hard look at that as well. That would certainly be an empirical circumstance that we would look at. And I was glad to hear our applicants mention that it may be feasible to add a few more spaces. And Tom pointed out some places where they could be. And looks to me like if it's at the north, we could still have adequate screening.
Yeah, if you've got 10 bays and 4 cars a day, that's 40 spaces plus staff. You're going to need a few more.
So that is a condition then, Troy, on the that Tom is adding to his motion. And did you want to second that with that?
Yeah, I'll second that with those 3 conditions.
So the two that are on the screen.
The landscape,
plus this
the traffic report, and then the staff working with applicant on the parking plan.
Let me phrase what I think you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the third condition would be that staff works with the applicant to provide adequate parking for this use at site plan. Is that right?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carries on a 5-0 motion. Thank you for your presentation and flexibility.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Item 8C, recommendation to approve the conditional use permit for Timnath Ladera Express Car Wash Auto Spa. Troy.
Okay. I'm just going to finish my notes on the last one really quick. Okay. So this is across the street. This is a car wash use, which is also listed on the table as a conditional use. We've had several iterations of the DRC meeting with the Ladera Design Review Committee, and then also they had a pre-application meeting, and we've worked through where do you put the building on the site, and we've seen quite a few different attempts, and this is the one I think that staff is the most comfortable with. The building is pulled up to Weitzel Road, and there's no vehicle area between the primary facade of the building and the street, and I think that was kind of important to us. And so, in doing that, we really have this, just the function of this building. You've got a tunnel where you've got cars going in one end and cars coming out the other end. And from the corner of Luna Vista Drive and Weitzel, that was really kind of our concern, with the same concern we had at Christian Brothers from that view to the daycare. we'd really like the landscaping maybe to have kind of this exit of the tunnel to have some screening from just the view from the street intersection there. This is the look of the building, the long side being the interior to the block. And then the next slide is that's the side that basically faces, the long side faces Weitzel. But going back to the last one, so this is the front, the number one front elevation is the one that's basically facing that intersection. And that's the area at the intersection is really where we're talking about that same condition being imposed. So that would be basically the view that we're saying we'd kind of like to beef up this visual screening of just looking at the intersection to the kind of that exit door for the most part. They had some other renderings that they included, so I put them in kind of the show here.
Looks lovely.
So let me just go back to the criteria again earlier on my overall slide. So for a car wash, these are the specific ones for car wash, which is they're talking about stacking spaces, and they've got way more stacking spaces than this minimum of these conditions requires. So, and they're not in the Harmony Corridor, and we don't feel they're blocking any safe flow of the pedestrian traffic the way they've designed their parking lot. So I think they're really satisfying these criteria. Then there's the overall, where did I get? Let me go back. Yeah, here's the overall conditional use criteria. And again, we go back to this item B, which is that there's no more adverse effects on health, safety, welfare of the surrounding properties, and no more injurious to the properties than would any other use that be permitted in the district that's not a conditional use, right? So latching onto that item B2, the type and extent of landscape and screening, we just felt like they could beef up that screening at that intersection, and that would allow them to satisfy this criteria. And all the others I think are really, I've itemized each response in the staff report, but I don't think any of those are real issues other than the this condition for item E that Vince has asked to be included in there as well, which is the same condition for all three of these.
But do we have a presentation from an applicant? Will, you're going to present their behalf?
We don't really have a presentation. I guess there's just a couple of things that I want y'all to bear in mind. One of them is the north elevation of this building faces floor and decor's loading dock and their loading facilities. And so visually, that's not a problem. And I don't think cross-traffic is an adjacent use defined by the code. And so, again, this applicant, they've been great to work with. They build a really, really nice-looking building, and they do it all the time, and their designs are super fresh. So, we're very excited about them, but happy to answer any other questions that I can.
And the car wash applicant, so they were at the airport and called me from Chicago, and their flight was canceled, but he is actually on a Zoom call, and he can see our presentation, and we can get him to talk.
Good evening to the Plan Commission. Can you hear me?
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead, let's
Yes.
bring him in.
We can't show you his face the way the setup is, but we can hear him,
Well,
and he can see our PowerPoint show.
that's okay. So
Right.
what's the gentleman's name?
Hi, my name is Alan Jacob. I'm with Car Wash Pro Designers. And with me on Zoom also are Nick Spallone from Car Wash Pro Designers and James Glasscott from WT Engineering. I want to apologize, first of all, to the commission on my behalf and our team for not being in person. we had an unfortunate incident at the airport. The pilot came on from the flight deck and said the right engine starter wasn't working, so he pushed us back into the gate. Two of us stayed back. One of us went on another flight, and unfortunately, none of us made it to the meeting on time. I apologize for that. We like to do these in person because they're more respectful, but unfortunately, we couldn't make it there. I just want to say, I think Troy did an excellent job in his presentation. I'm not going to add much more except to say that I think the process of the pre-application and the DRC, along with Ladera, made it very easy to make adjustments to these that are satisfactory to the staff. And I also like to add that I think this use here is not only appropriate, but I think complementary to the other two uses that are before the Plan Commission today, Christian Brothers and Take 5 Oil Change. I think a lot of customers will change their oil or get their car fixed and then immediately probably use the car wash to wash their car and go home with a fixed car and a clean car. I don't have much more to add. We're here to answer any questions that you guys might have for any of us.
Right.
And
Thank
we
you.
hope that you recommend approval. Thanks.
It's Alan, right?
Yes.
Oh, Alan, okay, thank you, appreciate it. I would have gotten off that plane too. But, okay, we, hang on there, Alan, while we, anybody interested in offering public comment on this? All right, we'll close public comment. Okay. Commissioners, questions for Alan?
I have something, it's on the landscape piece, the buffering there. Certainly, I'm okay with, the condition to look at it, but, just looking at that, it's a fairly narrow space, and it's really close to a corner crossing a busy road. So I think we have enough corners that we've made dangerous with landscaping. So we should keep that in mind. That it's a nice looking building. Yes, you have clean cars coming out of it. In the end, it may just not be practical to do there given the, it's narrow and you don't want to block view of an intersection.
Other comments?
Yeah, I have a comment, Troy. There's other car washes in the county that have bright flashing lights and so forth. We've had some issues in the past. I would like to make sure that for any car wash in a use permit, we encourage or we discourage bright or flashing lights that stay on all night long. I think that that's important. And I know that of all the locations, this is the best one to put something that's maybe a little bit noisy and has some vibrations away from the daycare and away from any residential use, across from a loading dock. That's a great place, and I applaud you for picking that location rather than others. But I want to make sure that as a conditional use, that we would discourage any neighbors who might be residential or daycares or similar type things that would be affected by noise and vibration. If you visit the other Timnath site and you sit on the front porch of the resident across the street from it, it's noisy and you can feel the vacuum cleaners running. I don't think we should encourage anything like that. That's my comment.
Others? Well, I offer it, again, the design, it looks very harmonious with the Christian Brothers. It looks similar to me, at least to the storage facility. So again, it looks like the design review process is working, and I'm happy to hear that, certainly. Any other comments from up here at the dais? Okay. Tom's, I don't know that necessarily rises to a condition. I know as far as the safety hazards, I'm not sure all of you are aware, those of you who did come to council the last time were aware that even the town is making a major change at Community Park for safety because of some of the issues with kids crossing over there. So I think, Troy, safe to say, Vince, that's something you all take seriously enough, and as part of the process, you're going to be looking at those things.
Yeah, well, excuse me. We will certainly review the site distance triangles from this site leaving and in the intersections that are involved.
Anything else? Yes.
So Alan, I'm on your website and it looks like you build the car washes and then the people name them, whatever they want to name them.
Nick, you want to jump in on that one?
Hello, committee. My name is Nick Spallone. I'm the CEO of Car Wash Pro Designers.
Yep.
Okay, to answer your question, we have a resident of Colorado that lives 30 minutes from there that will own this.
Okay.
So the name, we design it. I'd like to say that we were the muse for the design, but Ladera really did hold the design pen for us, and we were a little discouraged that was happening, but it came out amazing. So, hats off to them. The DRC thing really tended to work in the favor of everybody. But I will say that it will be owned, it will be operated by a Colorado resident.
Is the name going to be Ladera Express Car Wash Auto Spa?
I think that was a generic name,
Okay.
just to kind of give an idea where the signage would be, but the client will work closely with staff to design a brand and something that will be consistent with what you guys are looking for.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, I have a motion on item 8C, recommendation to approve the conditional use permit for, at least for now, Timnath Ladera Express Car Wash Auto Spa.
Motion to approve item 8C, recommendation to approve the conditional use permit for Ladera Express Car Wash and Auto Spa with condition 1 in regard to the landscape plan and 2 in regard to the traffic report.
As written, recommended, okay.
Second.
We have a motion, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Alan, welcome to Timnath. Least
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very
Very
much, guys.
excited.
Hey, we've made it to our last item on the agenda.
We did, okay, we're moving right along here. Item 8D, recommendation to approve the conditional use permit for Take 5 oil change. Also Troy.
This site is directly south of the Christian Brothers site, diagonally across Weitzel Street to the southeast from the car wash. We went through several iterations on this with the applicant as well. It's unique that it's such a small building. It's got 3 bays compared to the 10 bays that Christian Brothers had. But these are drive-through bays, so the customer comes in one side, gets serviced, and then leaves out of the other side. These oil changes are, and we can let the applicant speak to that, but there's not going to be a lot of waiting around because they're pretty quick at it. It sounds like 10 minutes or less, I think maybe that's the 5 on Take 5, but we'll let them talk to that. But as far as it is a different parking demand than Christian Brothers would have had, even though they are technically the same use within our land use code. They both qualify as minor vehicle repair, the way we have it defined, but they are, quite a bit different as far as how long the vehicles will be staying on the site. Again, this is next to what's going to be the daycare. The daycare is going to have both of those lots that are immediately adjacent, and it'll be kind of well, we've had one pre-application meeting with them already, and we talked a little bit about the layout, but they're in the process of combining those 2 lots into one lot. We've got an administrative plat on the daycare, just to give you a little context, to combine those two lots, and then they'll come forward with a development application as a site plan application in the near future, it sounds like. But in any case, so we've got Christian Brothers to the north, daycare to the east. We don't know what it'll be to the south. And across the street is, we've done a pre-application for Winco directly across the street, and presumably that'll move forward. That'll be directly south of the car wash. This area is kind of starting to fill in. We were really wanting them to have one of the facades, and the code really pushes for this, one of the facades of the building to you know, have some street frontage and really have some sort of interaction with the street. Now this use is so unique that the building is so small, there's really not a whole lot of frontage because the drive-through nature of those bays, you really couldn't put the long side along the street. This, given the building and the need for their circulation, that was, we thought after several iterations, probably the best way to site this thing. And there is the facade or the building design, and this has gone through the DRC process as well. Certainly, this is not an approved elevation. We still have the ability during site plan to make more suggestions, but this at least is their conceptual building elevations that have made it through the Ladera Design Review Committee so far. So going back to the same condition that we've had on the other ones, but in particular more similar to the condition that we had on Christian Brothers, because of the daycare anticipated to the east, we would like to have that same condition applied to their landscape edge along the eastern edge of their property. And again, there's that private access road that is between this site and the future daycare site, and it will continue on, and both Christian Brothers and this Take 5 site, as well as the daycare site, will all have their individual driveway accesses off of this private access road and not off of the or Vista del Pico, or I forget the name of the one to the north, another Pico something or another. So none of the accesses will be directly off of those named streets, but off of these private access drives. All that to say, I think the same condition for the same reason that we have on the other two, we would like to recommend for this one. And I think that's all I had on that. Does the applicant have any presentation or anything you want to say? Oh, you did provide me a PowerPoint, that's right.
I can speak to that in the interest of time.
Okay, yeah, if you...
I've got it right here.
Yeah, we want you to get your money's worth.
Yeah, exactly. Chairman Goldstein and Commissioners, my name is Jim Gamble. I'm with Claycon Development out of Charlotte, North Carolina. We are the applicant for our Take 5 project. We're excited to be here, and we appreciate your time this evening. We'll save the smallest deal for last, so hopefully we can run right through this. I'd like to tell you a little bit about Take 5. It's corporately owned by Driven Brands, and there are over 1,000 locations across the country of various design, as you can imagine, as we go into various jurisdictions. Our stores are, one thing I want to really reiterate, our stores only average 30 to 50 customers a day. Our customers never leave their vehicle. If they do, there's a problem. So I say that facetiously. But our throughput, to Troy's point earlier, we actually average 9.2 minutes. We have very, very limited services for just oil change, filter change, wiper blades, tire pressure, and coolant check. As was mentioned earlier, we do complement the other auto uses very well because as Christian Brothers is maybe 10% oil change, that's over 90% of our business. So we get people in and out pretty quickly. And we talked about our traffic study, and we're more than happy to participate in that as well, which we'll do. Our low impact use, we do have industry leading design and industry-leading environmental controls. That was mentioned earlier too. We are very, very sensitive to that. Our oil is recycled as well, and we do have oil separators and all those elements that are actually in our industry just absolutely essential for our well-being as well. Claycon Development, our partners, our operator, Claycon Oil LLC is our partner, and we own and operate over 35 Take 5 oil changes in Colorado and South Carolina. 2023 Franchisee of the Year, just driven on design, operational excellence. Our staffing is bar none across the country. We're always considered a top 10 franchisee across the country. Our development group, which I'm a part of, we've got over 50 years experience, we'll just leave it at that, and worked in over 20 states across the country. I'm also joined tonight by Tasha Bouvier, who is with Galloway, who's also been working extremely hard on this entire project, and we're fortunate to have them on our team. I do want to thank Troy and his team for helping us. Every jurisdiction has a different process, and he's been great, and his team's been great to guide us through that, as well as Kirsten and her team with McConnell through the DRB process. And we're very, very excited to be part of this community, and happy to answer any questions I can.
Same deal with public comment. Anybody? No, nobody? Okay. Open and close public comment. Questions? I have one, but everybody else take a crack at it.
I'm good, Phil.
Okay, I'll ask mine. You said 90%, it's an oil change business. Only 90% of your business is oil change. What's the other 10%, Jim?
Well, the lubricants and wiper blades
Okay.
and things such as that. I'm sorry, filter change, wiper blades, just really small things. We don't change any tires. There are no jack wrenches or anything. It's very clean and very, very quiet business too.
9.2 minutes.
That's the national average. I can't vouch for that's what I'm told.
Other questions for Jim? Commissioners? All right. Troy, anything else?
I've got one for Troy.
Oh, go
Can
ahead.
you bring up your picture again, please?
Of the 3 sites?
Yeah,
Or,
of the site.
or of
Yeah,
this?
right there, stop.
Okay, yeah.
What's that area behind it? Is that just like an open space area?
Oh, on the north?
I guess if that's the north.
Yeah, on
Sorry,
on the top,
yeah,
yeah.
on the top.
Yeah, we talked a lot about that they don't need this site to be as big. To Tom's point earlier, I mean, maybe they could work out a deal with Christian Brothers and expand their parking lot if they need more parking, because this site is maybe like, maybe you could speak to that, but they don't need it to be this big, but this is the site that's available.
Right, it's an acre property, and our footprint's less than 1,800 square feet. As mentioned, we don't need as much parking. Our circulation basically dictates the site layout. But we were asked if there was anything else we could do on that residual property, and we decided no, not at this point we can't. But after we close, we'll be happy to talk to Christian Brothers about
That
parking
would seem
expansion.
to be a swell idea, and Will, Kirsten, I'm sure you all put your heads together and something metaphorical about those lights going out right at that moment, I'm sure. But it looks like Tom, we may have a solution. So you've earned your keep tonight.
Opportunities all
And
around.
Jim, we're glad to hear that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Enzo? You guys down there? Okay. All right. So with that said, do I have a motion on item 8D, recommendation to approve the conditional use permit for Take 5 oil change?
I move that we recommend to approve the conditional use permit for Take 5 oil change as written.
I have a second. I have a second. Good. Thank you. All in favor? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries on a 5-0 vote. Welcome to Timnath.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jim. Reports. Commissioners, anything, the good of the order?
Vince, I have a question since you're here. The signs on the parkway are saying, some work has started. Are they closing the parkway or?
That is the work that's going to be on Busgrove as well. So that's the new roundabout. That's kind of, what is that? That's north of 5, or I'm sorry.
The extension.
There's going to be,
Extend-
right, there's going to be a roundabout on Main Street and expanding Bus Grove between the other roundabout.
Okay.
And that lasts till November, right? Anticipated.
Well, hopefully it'll go quicker and we'll have better construction conditions. It's kind of hot right now to put concrete down, but yeah, it'll go till November.
I just didn't know if traffic on the parkway would be interrupted if you're going to Bus Grove.
It is. It's being detoured right now, and it'll continue with that detour until that construction is completed.
Well, the existing detour, there's not going to be a new one where you can't get to Bus Grove.
And that was the point, is just to keep that detour up.
Others?
I've got
Renzo.
one, Phil, and you could tell me if this is inappropriate or not, but I'm excited about seeing all this development here. And I'm just curious if we could ever get a status on some of the other development that we've already taken through the site plan, such as that storage area, for example.
That is, yes, and I wasn't gonna mention this, but we are presently going through, you all know, going through an evaluation process such as it is. I've met with Scott once. I just talked to him before the meeting. I'm gonna have a follow-up meeting with him, probably first of the week at this point. And it's something that I know you all want to have, and Scott and I have talked about a couple ways we can do that. And I for one would like that as well, because I got a longer list than you do because I've been here longer.
So I'm happy to provide an update on any projects. Ladera Storage is still in the pipeline. We're still waiting on some final signatures and what have you. I can't remember when the site plan expires, but we haven't heard anything from them otherwise, and still working with them to kind of close that out. I do recall there were a couple other questions. The apartment building behind us, I granted them an extension for their site plan approval. They're still intending to bring that forward. I believe their site plan was going to expire this August, and they get a one-year extension with the code requirement that we recently updated. As you all know, the construction industries on some stuff has kind of slowed. There's been a lot of chaos with pricing and what have you, so that was one of the reasons, just needing some more time to kind of flesh out their bidding and estimating on that. I can't remember the other ones that was on that list, Phil, that we talked about.
Well, you know what, rather than prolong this, what I thought I would do is I'm going to reach out to all of you, and I'm going to tell you the ones I can remember and have you add to it. And then when I meet with Scott, we can decide what the best way to share that information with everybody. Once we're caught up, then I think we'll stay caught up some way, shape, or form through our updates provision on the agenda.
Yeah, and I know it's not uncommon for development proposals to kind of go through the process and then they never come to fruition. The conditional use for the Harmony Club, the senior living, that one's still in the works. We're meeting with them again. Yeah, sometimes things just take some time. So that's the other one I think that was kind of on the short list of recent, within the last year and a half, kind of approvals that we haven't seen any ground or dirt turned on those.
Most importantly, Prost.
Prost is, yeah, I don't know where that one is. I think they're kind of taking a timeout.
Prost is still in the mix. They have decided there's another part of the development that they may want to be part of. And so they've still got their lot and all that, but they're waiting to see how quick some other stuff can happen before they make a final decision and pull the trigger. But they are wanting to be in Timnath.
By the way, while you're up there, my comment at the beginning, how I should have phrased that, and I've said this to you before, the fact that you have been willing to share some of these tenants, when I comment, I said I knew it was in there, but to your credit, the fact that you've shared that is helpful to us, even though I know you don't have to give us these updates on.
Well, again, we're finding there's, tremendous amount of excitement about the project. We're getting a lot of contacts from users, but it is a long gestation period, way longer than we want it to be, trust me. But no, there's good things happening, there's good things being said, there's good things being said about planning. Again, that was nice to hear. The DRC thing that we're doing is a little unusual. I've done it in other places. It works really well once you get it, tuned up. And that seems to be, the users are liking it. I think the planners are liking it. It gives everybody a voice early instead of, I've spent all this money on a set of plans. What do you mean you don't like it?
Yeah. And I can't remember if I mentioned it, you may remember some time ago the issues with the open space. Troy, in working with Ladera, did a great job of resolving that, and I think it's going to be a very attractive area for people that while they're waiting to get their car serviced or whatever on their lunch hour who work in any of these places. I think it's going to be a real credit, as is all of our other open spaces and parks. So again, to everybody's credit on that one. Thanks. There is a council chat, I understand, tomorrow. I haven't seen anything on the website, but I knew it was on Facebook. It's our newest council member, Dennis Strahota. It's at the church, I think, at 6:30 to 7:30, Presbyterian Church. Anyway, for anybody who hasn't gone to those are they're fairly interesting in the questions that people come. It's a fairly informal process. Scott, you have something else, it looks like.
Yeah, I just have a couple updates, well, maybe just one update. With the comprehensive plan, I want you to mark your calendars for August 18th. We're hoping to hold a work session with you on some goals and policies. That's kind of the really key policy piece of the comprehensive plan. I'm still working with our consultant to nail down travel plans and et cetera, but right now, tentatively, we're looking to kind of spend an evening talking about goals and policies with the comp plan. So wanted to bring that to your attention.
That's terrific. We've certainly looked forward to it. Is that a regular Tuesday, meeting night for us?
It is a regular meeting
Okay,
night,
and
yes.
it would simply be, that would be the only item on the agenda?
Right now, I think that is, but we hope if we have another one, then we can
Okay.
adjust accordingly. But that's trying to get that in on a regular night with having to schedule other times and what have you. So
That's great, Scott. Now we validated what I shared with you a year and a half ago, that this is one of the most interesting things you can go through. It's the roadmap for going forward, and very interesting. So, and hope you can make that meeting. You had another thing?
I did, but I forgot. So,
It's okay.
There's a lot going on right now. I guess I'll throw out a kudos to Will and his team with at least Ladera, with their SIA. Tom, we've had a lot of conversation about weeds and joke about weeds. But with that, Ladera put together a pretty solid plan that I think would be a good model that we could look for other subdivisions. Most importantly, in regards to the state compliance for invasive weeds and species. So they did nice job on working with that in that north area. We're still intending to bring some changes to the weed stuff. I haven't seen it yet, but we're still moving forward with that. We do have a new code compliance person that's been on staff since April, and she's been doing a great job of helping out on code compliance. Encourage, if anybody has any issues, just to submit a request. That's the best way to do it, rather than emailing us and doing it in informal channels. But we are evaluating software and making some software changes to make some engagement opportunities online to be determined, both with applications and code enforcement. So hopefully those improvements will be coming forward very shortly. It'll allow residents to kind of be the nosy neighbor, and they can look up an address to see what's going on and applications and what have you. So we're still testing and working on that software.
That's Priscilla, your new.
Yep.
I commend you on adding that position. I tested it with a gentleman in the neighborhood, an elderly gentleman asked me about an issue. I submitted it through that, I think, the right channels. It was addressed within a week, and it wasn't an easy thing. They sure they had to contact a resident, and within 1 week, it was solved, so it's working.
That's the old system. We'll have a new one, but Priscilla's been doing awesome. She's great. So.
Troy.
I thought of one other update on a site plan that you guys saw recently. The clubhouse and pool up at Kitchell Lake, I've been getting some calls from them. Their architect is working on the actual building permit submittal, or they're pulling together the design for that. So I know they're moving forward. I know one nuance that's caused a little bit of scratching of the heads is the land use code didn't require electric charging for their particular use, because they were the clubhouse pool is listed under community and institutional use, and that didn't trigger the EV charging stations from a land use code standpoint. But there was a building code change recently that came through that Russ from Safe Built brought before council earlier in 2025 that sort of trumps that. And so they are required to do EV charging stations, even though the site plan didn't. It's a building permit requirement. So that's kind of one of the things that we're working through with them as well. But they seem to be very motivated to proceed as quickly as possible to get that building up and running.
The code requires EV ready for solar panels and chargers, so they don't necessarily have to put those things in. The structures need to be wired so that it's easier to do rather than to retrofit in them. So that's what the building code requirement.
Well,
would
we'll look
require.
forward to that coming forward, as will, I presume, Council Member Holt, who lives
Yeah,
up
I don't-
there. And
They may or may not put a charger in, but the structure needs to be EV ready.
Okay. Yeah, well, and I know he'll be interested since he popped in unexpectedly on our meeting when this came up. Okay, commissioners, staff, anything else for the good of the order? Hearing none.